This is Between Noon and Three by Robert Farrar Capon. And Robert Capon is one of my favorite authors. He writes from a perspective that is thoroughly Orthodox and Christian and Trinitarian from the divine, from the Nicene Creed, in agreement with that. He was an Episcopal priest who died a few years ago, but he writes with an amazing talent that I've never seen anybody write with, a combination of just humor, um, insight and depth and irreverentness and solid theology. Like, I don't know how he does it. I want to be like him when I grow up, but this guy wrote a great book. And this book is what he calls his most important work. And it might be kind of a little stretch for some people. It starts out with these two parables that he creates, he makes up. The first is about a college professor that has an affair with one of his students. He's a serial adulterer, and she is the first time adulteress, and they have this affair, and she accepts him as he is, even though he probably will continue to commit serial adultery, but he pledges his love to her. And Capone uses this as a picture of grace. And then he goes in to talk about another parable of a mafia hit where a guy, gets rubbed out and choked out with a rope and left in the, dirt. And then uses this to talk about the reconciliation of all things that God is ultimately promised to be working through Jesus in his death and resurrection and our death and resurrection with him. It has a take on death and resurrection and heaven and hell that's probably different than what you've heard before, but fits within the bounds of Orthodox Christianity. It's just hard to understand. There's things in it that are hard to understand, but are really challenging and stimulating. If you are tired of kind of the same old thing and you want something new, that you like reading theology, but you're willing to open your mind a little bit to expand your parameters of the possibilities for how scripture could be interpreted, this isn't so far out. It's just shocking in that he's trying to shock our sensibilities. In fact, let me read to you just a quick clip where he describes his purpose and his method in this book. 252. Um, he says this. He says, except for one comment on my method on this book, my parable about Paul and Laura was designed to shock you into an awareness of the outrageousness of grace. My coffee hour was a trick to lull you back into a little complacency again, to lead you to hope that perhaps I would promise to stop using titillating illustrations. You would be able to see grace in a more acceptable light. This present consideration of the youngest day is meant to break that hope for good. Straight theologizing about grace is more, not less, outrageous than parabolic theologizing. The more clearly you make grace sovereign over human life, the more unacceptable become your efforts to harmonize it with life as we know it. The farther you go in expounding grace as the ultimate goodness of God, the deeper you find yourself mired in the manifest badness of God. I am sorry for that. If I were an apologist, I think, well, I'm going to stop there. Um, but he's not an apologist. He's a dogmatic theologian, and he is dogmatic about grace and that everything is grace. And there's no one better at telling that part of the story. So I highly recommend this book to people that have an open mind and are willing to consider the outrageousness of grace, or for people that are kind of stuffy and think that God's about moralism, morality, and law keeping. Maybe this will shock you out of it. Either way, I hope you read it.